I trust you're doing well and are having a good week so far. Welcome to Rwanda Television News. My name is Gloria Mutesi. Starting us off tonight, the Secretary General of the governing party, RPF Inkotanyi, Francois Ngarambe, says the establishment of a highly disciplined and professional security institution that put people at the center of its considerations is one of the surest ways to sustain peace and security and consolidating an enabling environment for economic development. The Secretary General said this while together with the party's senior commissioners during a virtual conference bringing together Russia's ruling party, United Russia, and political parties from across Africa. This Wednesday, Ngarambe stressed that trade cooperation is very important between Russia and Africa and stressed that the African Continental Free Trade Area launched on the continent is a strong way to remove trade barriers. On the other hand, Rwanda says the market will boost foreign investment. The meeting, which was in the context of the Russia-Africa Political Parties Cooperation, was attended by leaders of Russia and African ruling political parties, including Dmitry Medvedev, the chairman of United Russia, President João Lourenço of Angola, and Ethiopian Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy, among others. Moving on, for the first time, a comprehensive financial service consumer protection law has been enacted in Rwanda. The new law seeks to create a more level playing field between financial service providers and their clients. Fiona Mbabazi has the story.
The law is mainly aimed at protecting clients of financial service providers. These clients include depositors, borrowers of banks, insurance policy holders, and other clients of entities regulated by the Central Bank of Rwanda.
This law that was gazetted in March 2021 is based on 10 principles of consumer protection, and the first one is just to have a supervisory authority to be able to oversee issues related to consumer protection. Now, this law gives the power to the central bank to be a supervisory authority in that framework. Banks and other financial service providers should be clear on the services they offer to clients. The other one is equity and fair treatment of customers. And then others are like awareness in terms of empowering customers, consumers, then data privacy, competition, and so on.
Imagine you paying back someone money that you owed earlier than their agreed time, yet you are penalized. This was happening in Rwanda's financial sector. However, this is about to change as the financial sector consumer protection law has been gazetted, a move that has been commended by the experts.
Scrapping off of the penalties on early loan repayments is probably the biggest change which is being introduced by the new law, and the effect of this is that borrowers will now be able to make early prepayments on loans without being made to pay any extra bank charges. So this will enable borrowers to be able to pay their loans to pay less interest income on their loans. On the other hand, it means that banks will lose some income which they used to collect from these penalties, and they'll therefore have to find out other ways of making money if they are to remain profitable and sustainable.
The ban is the first of its kind in the region. Kenya is the only other East African country with the ban on prepayment penalties. However, its ban does not apply to prepayments on mortgage loans. The last monetary and fiscal policy from the Central Bank of Rwanda indicates that the banking sector assets of December 2020 stood at 4,310 billion, an equivalent of 53% of the GDP, while the microfinance institutions was at 356 billion in December 2020, an increase of 14.7% compared to the previous year, 2019. Fiona Mbabazi reporting for RTV News.
Many thanks for that report, Fiona Mbabazi. Now, the government of Rwanda has outlined to development partners the key priority sectors Rwanda will focus on in the post-COVID-19 recovery plan. Among these sectors include investments in social welfare and health promotion. This was during the 17th Annual Development Partners Retreat held virtually here in Kigali this Wednesday. Gabi Muvunyi followed this.
The two-day annual Development Partners Retreat is being held virtually for the first time due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Under the theme Stronger Recovery, the Path to Strategic Transformation. This time round, the agenda is to showcase Rwanda's efforts in containing the effects on COVID-19 and recovery efforts that are underway. At the opening session of the two-day retreat, Minister of State in charge of National Treasury, Richard Dusabe, says that despite the work towards the economic recovery from the effects of the pandemic is going well, the private sector is at the center of this process.
So mindful that the pandemic is still with us. It's going to be taking time, and hence the need to continuously work together both on financial support as well as ideas on technical cooperation to achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves. As we continue to implement our economic recovery fund, it will be important to work together to ensure the mechanisms and targeting are fitting to current needs as well as expanded demand for support by the business and informal sector. The private sector is at the forefront of the recovery process. And again, as we discussed for these 2 days, it is so on top of the agenda that we're going to focus on what it can do to support the private sector for timely recovery.
During this meeting, the government of Rwanda reaffirmed its continued efforts to achieve the 2050 vision in the 7-year National Strategy for Transformation. Minister of State in charge of National Treasury, Tusabe, noted that various short-term strategies have been put in place, like ensuring health safety against COVID-19, guaranteeing food safety, supporting businesses and job security, and implementing of major infrastructure projects.
The pandemic has also highlighted the digital divide, which, if not bridged, will further drive inequality. Thus, the necessity to build a strong digital infrastructure for transformation and mitigate some of the other barriers, such as affordability of devices and access to electricity that may stymie fuller participation.
On his part, the UN resident coordinator for DNDIA appreciates the progress made by Rwanda in the economic recovery, but calls for it to be coordinated by all sectors in order to accelerate development.
Given the changing landscape of development and conflicting purpose between group of actors and within a group of actors, for example, private sector is not unique, civil society organizations are not unique. Farmers should be brought in and their association. How do we ensure that we have always around the table the relevant actors for policy dialogue and come up with a common ground of win-win situation, preserving our specificities through effective and efficient multi-stakeholders platform?
The annual Development Partners Retreat is attended by representatives of the government of Rwanda, multilateral and bilateral donors, the private sector, as well as international and national NGOs. Under normal circumstances, the DPR features plenary and working group sessions based on the main objectives of the retreat. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
To judicial matters now, a witness in the terror trial involving Paul Rusesabagina and 20 co-accused, Michelle Martin, who worked for Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation, told the court how Paul Rusesabagina sought funding to invade Rwanda through the FDLR and seek help from the country's neighboring Rwanda. Ethan Tashubia continues with this report.
During Wednesday's hearing of the terror trial involving Paul Rusesabagina and the 20 co-accused, the prosecution requested that another key witness in the case be given time to testify before the court. Dr. Michelle Martin, a citizen of the United States of America and a university professor who also volunteered with Paul Rusesabagina's Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation, based in the United States, took the stand a few minutes past 2 p.m. to testify. The information she gave was mainly based on email correspondences she had received between Paul Rusesabagina and his colleagues at PDR Ihumure, a political organization, and the Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation. Among them was one particular name that was mentioned repeatedly, of Providence Rubinjisa. The acquaintance said that they met in a meeting to the point where Rubinjisa trusted Michelle and gave her the right to access his emails address and gave her a password. The witness testified that the Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation was not aimed at helping the victims, but wanted to fight the Rwandan government as it was involved in raising funds to help FDLR militia group. She described how Paul Rusesabagina had given money to the FDLR to buy weapons in South Africa and how Rusesabagina played a role in finding the terror outfit a base to operate from to attack Rwanda. According to Michelle, Rusesabagina regularly sent the terror group financial assistance through Western Union. Michelle Martin also revealed that Rusesabagina supported the Rwandan-based PS Mberakuri party of Bernard Ntaganda. Michelle, who is also a researcher and writer, told the court that she was curious about the activities of Paul Rusesabagina and Providence Rubinjisa, which led to her discreetly taking notes and copies of Rubinjisa's emails and filed them. The witness testified that she had a soft spot for Rwanda after knowing the history of the country. For her, associating with Rusesabagina and Rubinjisa felt the same as being with the perpetrators of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Michelle told the court that the Rwandan government had never asked her to testify or even coerced her to do so. Michelle said that she felt it was her responsibility and that it required her to have the courage to come forward. Although Paul Rusesabagina did not attend the hearing, the prosecution continued to explain the charges against the remaining 20 defendants, including Herman Sengimana and others involved in the case. The prosecution was aiming to show how Paul Rusesabagina worked with FDLR, as revealed by some of the terror outfit's top masterminds who were arrested in Burundi in 2009 on their way from Tanzania. Investigations revealed that the money they used was sent by Paul Rusesabagina and was intended to destabilize Rwanda. These were Lieutenant Colonel Biturende Tarsis and Lieutenant Colonel Habiyaremye Noel, who were immediately sent to Rwanda. Paul Rusesabagina and his lawyers did not attend the hearing, and Nyarugenge prison sent a letter to the court stating that Rusesabagina would not appear in court again, claiming that it was his right, but the court said that he would be free to appear in court at any time as long as the case is still being tried. Reporting for RTV News, Ethan Tashabia.
In other news, a report by the East African Community on Persons with Disabilities says that the lack of a coordinated labor protection law allows some to be excluded from the labor market, which leads them to poverty. Umgari Jed has this report.
In the industrial area, there is a dairy factory which employs 50 people. The vast majority have hearing and speech impairments. Work is in full swing. The employees say they are proud to be trusted and to demonstrate their knowledge and efforts in the development of the country. The reason we are able to work together is that we don't talk too much, and communication between us is extremely easy. Thank you to my employer for giving me the ability to work here even though I have a hearing impairment. The management of the factory says that people with disabilities are productive because they have no distractions.
They are basically in production, so they are the ones who actually produce the products. Without them, we would not have a company called Masaka. Disability is not inability. Just because a person cannot hear, just because a person cannot speak, doesn't mean they are not able to perform. We have proven it 100% that they are able to work and they are able to produce. Masaka Creamery is known all over as a factory that produces very good products. It all comes from them.
With the help of technology and due to the COVID-19 pandemic in Kigali, a meeting was held for the fourth time in the East African Community for the Disabled. Participants say that people with disabilities still face a variety of challenges, but especially the lack of confidence going into the job market. The Executive Secretary of the National Commission for the Disabled in Rwanda, Emmanuel Daisaba, has this to say.
We still have some challenges with some employers that don't understand that people with disabilities can act like those without. It takes time for people to change their attitude towards these notions, but we have come quite a distance despite not being where we would like to be, which is why we want to make sure that in terms of labor laws, it is visibly notable and required to respect people with disabilities.
The Ministry of Public Service and Labor points out that they have done their best to amend the labor laws in Rwanda so that people with disabilities have the opportunity to compete with others in the labor market. An employee at the ministry, Uwizeyimana Emmanuel, has this to say.
In the law on how to find employees and how to be promoted, it is clear that when people with disabilities want to enter the public service, they should show the types of disability they have. This can be used to take care of those with disabilities and their needs. When they are required to do a task, they should do it properly. Labor policies have been put in place to help people with disabilities find themselves in the marketplace. Jobs can provide them with the skills they need and to give them the money to start projects.
However, in some East African community countries, there are no laws protecting people with disabilities in order for them to gain access to the labor market. Some people have a percentage of people with disabilities among their workforce. Honorable Bahati Alexis says the establishment of a common law and commission by the East African community will make it more accessible to people with disabilities in the labor market and other programs which promote them.
In Rwanda, we are looking at how we have implemented the rules set by the East African community. We have tried our best to do so, but I cannot say the same for others. To know that things are being done right and to standard, efforts are being made to set up a joint agency with the countries to monitor the implementation.
In the East African community, the COVID-19 pandemic has intensified in the projects of people with disabilities and the world at large. According to the Ministry of Public Service and Labor, 1,100 disabled people in Rwanda have been given 420 million Rwanda francs for entrepreneurship, and another 120 million Rwanda francs have been given to cooperatives that help people with disabilities to find jobs that help them thrive. Umngari Jade, RTV News.
Also in the news today, the Director General at the National Identification Agency, NIDA, Mukesha Josephine, announced that this year's fiscal budget will end when 180 sectors are able to process national IDs. The process started on March 15th as employees of NIDA across the country have been providing trainings to civil registrars in the sectors who take photos of those seeking national IDs. Jane Mutoni continues with that report.
Wednesday, residents from Kazo sector in Goma district, especially the youth, lined up at the district offices to be taken photographs for their national IDs as the sector joins other sectors which have been provided ID identity photography services in Goma district. These young people are happy to have this service brought near to them. Before, I used to arrive late and I couldn't find my name on the list. It was during 2016 and 2017. At times, I would think of seeking jobs, but because I don't have a national ID, it was challenging. Those who are being photographed are strictly those born between 2000 and 2005. A 54-year-old woman, Chizanye Elina, was also among those that came to be photographed. I had lived in Congo before coming here, so they gave me a document which compensates for a national ID, but that document got expired. It's been 8 years now. I was told that I will get my ID from my place of birth, which is Gisenyi district, Jenda sector, Kabatesi village. However, one man was not photographed, but instead was sent to bring other documents. The executive secretary of Kazo sector, Nyamutera Emmanuel, explains more.
We are wondering why he didn't seek for an ID all this time, which is why we demand for documents as proof. We've received some with outdated IDs and others that were not in the country who came back. We are demanding for documents that prove a person was in the country or a place they say they were at that time, in order for us to give them IDs based on that information.
The National Identification Agency announced that from March 15th, some sectors will be joining other sectors which have been providing identity photography services. ID seekers should be sure to cross-check if their names are written properly, and if they change their names later on, they must first go through the process required to change a name before seeking an ID. This is to avoid issues of changing one's ID after it has arrived.
kugira ngo utazajya mu nzira zo gukosoza iyo ndangamuntu wayibona ukayibona ifite ubuziranenge.
About 60 sectors across the country were already providing permanent ID services to ID seekers. By the end of March 2021, there will be an addition of 100 sectors. NIDA officials say that by the end of next month, 20 more sectors will be provided with photographic equipment. Jane Mutoni reporting for RTV.
Students of the troubled University of Jitwe say that they are still confused because of the fact that their university is still closed, yet almost all other schools in the country have resumed in-person classes. The students say there are some of the students that have since transferred to other universities because of uncertainties surrounding this university. Ghislaine Mugwaneza has this report.
At the campus of University of Jitwe, you will hardly see a person in form of students or lecturers. Students that used to study at this university told RBA that they don't really know the reason as to why other universities resumed in-person lectures except their college. We're living a hard life, if I can say that, because we're home not studying while other universities reopened.
As a parent who pays school fees for a child and sees other universities working for more than 6 months while another one is still closed, a parent wishes to see the child making another step. Parents also have no idea about what will happen.
These students told RBA that some students have since transferred to other universities because of uncertainties surrounding the university.
They have been telling us that they have hope, but it seems like there is no hope. We are waiting, and some of us already shifted to other schools, but there are others who have not yet found where to go.
The students have asked university officials to let them know if the university will resume classes or if it was permanently closed. The officials say that they try to put in place the measures to fight COVID-19, but there are other missing things to be in place. Dr. Joseph Grandema, the Vice Chancellor of University of Jitwe, said that he cannot predict the university resumption.
There are things they requested us to do, and we are still finding them. The last time I went to the HEC offices, I talked to them asking them to let us resume classes, as we find all the things we are required to be having. But they told me that it's not a good idea.
The University of Jitwe was founded in 1993. This university has experienced academic and financial issues in the recent past. Before the current closures due to COVID-19 pandemic, this university had 3 faculties with 520 students in total. Ghislaine Mugwaneza reporting for RTV.
In sports matters, this Wednesday, Amavubi Stars defeated Mozambique in Kigali to keep their chances of qualifying for the AFCON 2021 alive. Rwanda scored their lone goals on the 67th minute thanks to the second half strike from the wonder kid, Jirinjiro Lag. This is the first victory the Rwandan team has registered in the ongoing AFCON qualifiers campaign. The victory propelled Rwanda to the second position in Group F with 5 points, 1 point above third place Mozambique. Rwanda needs to stage formidable performance and win in Cameroon next week if they are to end a 20-year wait to take part in the Africa's top international football showpiece. On behalf of the entire news production team, many thanks for your company tonight. Please stay safe, continue wearing your face mask and doing all that is required of you to stop the spread of the pandemic. Otherwise, God bless you and keep you. And until next time, I'm Gloria Mutesi.